Hi, welcome back.
We're back. Another episode. And we're going to be talking about your favorite, actually, not your favorite, but we're going to be talking about some Reddit conversations that hopefully will become one of your favorite bad habits. We're going to read some comments from some Reddit users. We trolled Reddit and found scrubbed the threads and found some pretty interesting conversations and approaches to long distance relationships. And so we're going to share them with you right now. We're here live streaming on a new app at the same time as we're recording this podcast called Chatter. We are holding a room. So definitely, if you're not on the Chatter app, you can find us when we're doing these live recordings on the app while we record these in real time. And most of the time, we have a little bit of a time delay. Uh, on our podcast, we put a podcast in the bank and they sit in the bank and then they may not come out for about a month and a half, some of them a couple months, just depending on the content. But definitely you can hop on Chatter and to watch us record them live as they roll out bigger versions of that app. We're going to roll in uh, bigger versions of what we can provide on that app. So we're live on Chatter right now. I had a few people come through the room watching and listening there right now. So that's awesome. And so let's see what you got, Sin. I know you got those Reddit conversations in front of you.
I do. Welcome, everyone. Good to be doing this episode. And we're loving the fact that there's new technology at hand, and we can do a room on Chatter at the same time as recording a live conversation. So these long distance relationship questions that keep coming up, I mean, it's incredible when you jump on platforms to really start understanding how big the LDR community is, because there is so many people out there these days as a result of technology, I guess, meeting people from all over the world. So do you want to just jump straight into the question that we've got here, and then we can see where that conversation takes us?
Yeah, let's hear them. What's the questions?
All right, so the
What's
question,
the
yeah.
statements here?
All right, so we've got one here that says that there's someone's currently in a long distance relationship and they're curious to know what other couples have to say in regards to, they've put, what's the end game mean to both parties? It's something we can answer, I guess. How often should we be trying to meet up and where? How long is too long to stay in this situation? I reckon we should start with those three questions. What do you think?
All right. Yeah, let's start with I need the questions in front of me.
Yeah,
Let's
that's
see.
okay. I can repeat them.
Yeah,
Curious to
say
think
that.
what other couples have to say and say that have been in challenging situations. So what do we have to say basically about this person who finds themselves in a long distance relationship? So they're on two different continents as well, so similar to what we are. And they want to know what we have to say about that situation, what end games are to both parties. So let's start there and then we can go
What's
down to the next one.
what's some of the answers that are already given?
All right, so we've got one person here that says that they're speaking on behalf of a friend of theirs, been in a long distance relationship. So one of my dear friends and his wife met online. He's from Australia, she's from here, and I don't know where here is. He was a widower and she divorced. They both done with kids, met online. When it was taboo. They've been together 15 years as of 2 weeks ago. So that's one person. What do
Wow,
you reckon?
15 years as of two
Yeah.
weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So I guess they do work long distance relationships.
Yeah, they definitely do. There's another person here that says, I'm in Australia, girlfriend's in Philly. They do trips on a regular basis. They're constantly on video calls. I mean, it's really, really, waiting to close the gap. So these guys are still separate. They're waiting to get together.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, it definitely does work. I've got a friend personally that's been together, married, 4 children now. She moved from Australia to the US, met a US boy. So
Interesting.
it
Interesting.
works. Yeah.
Um, and then also, I'd be curious to hear how many times they've met up and what their end game is. That last the couple before that wasn't married,
Hmm.
obviously, 15 years. That'd be interesting. All right, what else you got?
Um, we've got, oh, there's a long one here.
Oh, let's
There's
hear the long one.
the long one. All right. A lot of these depend on you and your situation and willingness. Ideally, the end game for a long distance relationship is to close the distance, but that can be a long process and a hard one. All right. Beautiful. Perfect. As for staying connected, most long distance relationships I know, including myself, so this person was in one, rely heavily on video calls and activities like watching movies together, gaming, and staying connected. Whatever hobbies that interest you and that you guys can do together is a good way to stay connected. Um, how often you try to meet up is up to you, and I'd say 3 times a year is really nice, and perhaps would be a good goal to strive for in your relationship. 3 times a year. For someone like me, on the other hand, because of the circumstances and careers, my partner and I see each other once a year. Oof. Um, for us, while not ideal, it's sufficient. It really just depends on your financial situation. You want to jump in and say something now because you
No, I
lifted
was
your
just
mic up?
I'm lost on so many things. They said that
Mhm.
they meet each other once a year. You said something earlier though too that I wanted to comment on, but yeah, go ahead and finish and we can go back over it.
Yeah. In my opinion, too long in this situation is only when you're not clear when there are no clear signs of anything moving forward or changing for anyone. Like there's no growing happening in the relationship and no real signs of closing the gap anytime
Didn't
soon.
didn't they just kind of answer that? Hold on though, that's a counterproductive statement because they meet once a year. They didn't
Mm.
mention have they
At the moment,
at the
yeah.
moment, and then they say that it's important to have something that they don't even have in their own relationship.
Well, yeah, or they don't really have a regular meetup. It's just once a year at this stage. But maybe once a year, and maybe they meet once a year, and it's like for say 3 or 4 months for that time. I don't know.
They're not being clear. I mean, I guess we'd have to follow back in and like ask these questions in the Reddit
Yeah,
and then get the
would be a good
response.
idea.
Yeah, because it doesn't make any sense. Like, how old are you? 17? Where you're like, hey, we got a good 5 years to waste here. Like,
Yeah,
it's just not my logic. Yeah, let's hear the
yeah.
rest.
Well, that's that one, and then
Oh,
the
that was the
last
end of
person.
that.
That was the end of that one. Yeah.
And then some of the statements from that one sounded like they got it off Chat GPT. Like the way like they didn't say me and my person do this, this, and this. They said you should do this, this, and this.
Yeah,
Like
ideally, yeah, exactly. Yeah, they probably did. Maybe there's someone on there doing
they
ChatGPT to
Chat
answer.
GPT that state answer. Yeah, that was
Well,
a
let's
Chat
just assume that
GPT.
they didn't. Let's just assume that they didn't, right? So this
All right.
person here is saying that they're in a long distance relationship. Ideally, 3 times a year is ideal, right? So when you look at that, that's like, I don't know, say you're meeting 1 month at a time. That's only really 4 months of the year that you're meeting up.
I would call that minimum, not you know
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
minimum you need to meet 3 times a year. And I don't. To me, I don't. I think 4 times is really more of a realistic
Mm,
setting. If you especially if you're talking about maintaining it long for a long period of time, I think at least
yeah.
in person 4 times a year. I mean, the military, you know, just marrying a military person and being married in the military is going to put you in a situation where you're gone for. When I was in the Navy, it was a 6 month deployment, and then you had
Mm,
workups. So we would go out for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, come back, 2 or 3 weeks, 3 weeks, come back, and then finally we're gone for 6 weeks, 6 months.
mm.
And if we had if there was some world crisis or war or conflict going on or something or some humanitarian mission, then we'd
It's
be gone.
indefinite.
We might be gone 9 months, might be gone
Mm,
12 months. I know soldiers, Army, Marines, guys like that, they can be gone into like the 18-month, almost 2 year time frame.
mm.
You could take leave and go home, but for the most part, you're going to be gone for a pretty long period of time. So that's kind of when we talk about these relationships, when we're having this podcast, having these talks, doing this stuff. Probably one of the biggest and toughest um, places that has forced long distance relationship is the U.S. military, which is
Mm.
interesting.
Yeah, I think that
The
it kind of is
militaries,
it's kind of different though. It's complete like it would be a completely different thing because you are in a lot of cases you are together with someone already,
right?
and then and then they're in the military. So as a military partner, you already know that there's going to be that opportunity and and that possibility that happens. So I guess that it's your job, right? So it's your job, it's your partner's job, or it's your job, and then it's understood that that's what you do. So you kind of really have no. It's not. I wouldn't see it as a long distance relationship that you choose to get into, unless you meet someone while they're in the military, out and about, and then you get. You connect and then you try and stay connected and they're in the military. That would be a long distance relationship, I guess. Um,
Yeah, that happens. I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously, people are not already married and already have the relationship
mm,
established. That's not necessarily a long distance relationship,
yeah.
but they get forced into a long distance relationship
Absolutely,
for
yeah.
periods of time. And
Can be
definitely a
hard.
lot of the stuff, and it's different now in this era than it was in the era when I was in. The era I was in, there was one computer. There was computers everywhere. Everybody had computers, but you went to the computer and you there was certain computers you could go to the email from, right? Cell phone service still very expensive, like
Mm,
almost prohibitively, or it was it cost you some money to
right.
have to 1 minute a dollar a minute to have phone calls when you're out to sea, and so you really couldn't afford to get a bunch of phone cards. There was guys that were spending their entire paychecks on phone
Yeah.
cards, and you could only send like one email, and then you had to wait for them to go check their internet and then send the email. So it's like a whole different game. I don't
So crazy.
Isn't it? See, some things in the military are done out of like safety and security for the ship,
Yeah.
for the base, whatever the circumstance. So I can't imagine that they just let people, even though they probably do let them do a lot of stuff, be too willy nilly with the phone, with the FaceTime, running around the base, FaceTime, and then having this much internet. They
Mm,
probably do. But see, I know that they would have blackout moments for us, and they probably still do the blackout moments. Um, they still probably do the blackout moments because they can probably turn all the internet on off on the whole ship, is what they probably will do. And that prevents anybody from being able to call out. That's because whatever mission and whatever they're doing is too important to be able to have them give the position of the ship or the base away, because there's something clearly going on at that moment. Um, so that it's pretty interesting. This is turning into
mm.
me talking about the military. Um,
Well, let's see where it goes. No, I truly do believe that the way that person wrote that response, they're either it might be a situation like that they find themselves in where they only see each other once a year or so, but you know, if it's not and they're just in a relationship and they live distance apart, I think that it kind of doesn't qualify much as a long distance relationship unless you've got a plan to close the gap, and it might be a job situation where they've gotten a contract to work, somewhere for say 3 years, and that's what they've got to put up with for now. But yeah, I just think it's everyone's got a different meaning. But I think that when you're really looking into a relationship of any kind, long distance or not, I think it's really important to you're with someone to have a connection, and you're with someone to kind of start having them as part of your life, and having them as a partner. So you can't be doing that on a long-term or permanent basis if there's so much separation between the two of you for a regular, for a long period of time. So closing the gap should be paramount. I think at least, maximum maybe 2 years ish.
yeah, you definitely got to close the gap. And just to kind of double back on the military stuff, a lot of times, because you just have, I think, like I said, it takes a special mindset, special attitude to be in a long distance relationship. You have to be pretty practical of a person. A lot of times in the military situations, it's already known that there's going to be infidelity. It's already kind of just accepted, you know.
Really?
hmm Yep. In some of the
Wow.
relationships, it's already accepted. I mean, there's a lot of people that kind of have, you know, the idea that they just don't talk about it because they already know.
Right.
There's a lot
Right.
of women that there was so many stories of women that moved guys in and just had certain circumstances that were going on while their
Wow.
husbands that they had children with were out to
Yeah.
sea. There was a
Hmm.
name too they would have for the guys like Steve or something. Like you got Steve, like it was just like a name, like how you call somebody a Chad. It'd be like a name for the guys that when you leave, they're coming in.
Oh gosh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and
Wow.
I mean the amount of men that rushed right into like the kind of went into like the prostitution and stuff and got like because there'd be we pull into port and that was a lot of guys were just we go to Thailand, we go to Bahrain, we
Hmm.
go to Hawaii, we go to all these places, Australia, you know, guys would just, I mean, they had a bucket of condoms at the door walking off the ship because they already knew.
God.
I mean, they knew
Yeah.
what guys are, most guys are on that. I definitely wasn't. I was like a born again Christian and stuff at the time when I was first deployed and I was married. So I didn't even put myself in environments where I was like hanging out with women or whatever. I think I would meet women when we'd be like out and running around, but we wouldn't, like, I didn't engage in like, oh, let's like entertain,
Mm.
like friendly hangout, show me around the city sort of thing. But yeah, you definitely. But going back to what you just said about closing the gap, you definitely, um, you got to have some sort of set expectation on either if you're like in the military, for example, a deadline on when does this stop? How many years are we going to do that? We're going to do this for 5 years, or we're going to do a career. I'm going to do a career, but the next duty station I have is I come home every day and I don't go. I'm not out on a ship or I'm not
Right.
in a foreign country. I can't have my family with me. So those are things to consider. Um, you know, I know the other situation too that people are starting a relationship and then there's a gap put between them and then they try to maintain it is college.
Hmm. Yes. You're starting school together, and then all of a sudden, in America, it's a big thing, right? You guys go away. People move away, like, different states altogether. Not so much here in Australia, but yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yeah, like in college, like kids have been together in school. They have an idea of, we're going to be together for this period of time and then at school will be over and we'll graduate, we'll go live happily ever after. I would be very curious on the success rate of something like that. But that's more so not closing the gap, but a gap's going to be put in the middle of the relationship. And I almost feel like that's more challenging in that
Yeah.
situation than if you put somebody in a situation where they start out in a long distance relationship and then they have to strategize and plan, and because they're probably already in a position where they have an openness. If they're open to dating outside of where their local area, then they're probably open to moving to a new place.
So for say we've got college or future college kids that are going to maybe be separated from their partners as they go off to college. Would you recommend that they try and be in a long distance relationship as they go off in separate directions at that age, at that such a young age?
I recommend that you guys let each other live your life. And the more you love the person, the more you care about them, the less that you need to control them. The more genuine the love, the more genuine, the more authentic the connection is, the interest you have in them being a genuine concern for their best interest. If it's the right person, they're going to tell you, hey, we're in college now. I love the fucking hell out of you. If we can make this thing happen in the summer and if I can see you and we can regroup, great. But let's be realistic. Let's not torture each other or lie to each other. Let's strengthen this relationship through truth and honesty. And let's just go ahead and who says we even need to be like worrying about being in relationships with people?
Mm.
you know,
Mm.
like maybe we
It's
just,
such a young age, isn't it? It's so young.
yeah,
Like it's like so much adventure should be had at that age.
exactly. And the reality of you being in a situation with multiple different varieties of types of people where you can really be selective and choosy, fun environments, the alcohol, marijuana, drugs in that environment, if you end up going that route, just that the nature of all that, it just facilitates just,
Mm.
freer sex and less inhibition about rando situations. And the
Yeah.
college is known for that. Isn't I'm not like cracking the code on anything here, opening up,
Right. Yeah,
pulling
exactly.
back the curtain, exposing it. It's known for that. So it's just like it's not even so much about, but it's about give a person the space to find and define themselves. If you're
Yeah.
talking about 18, 19, 20, 22, 23 years old, that's not it's not really a time to be trying to like make a person do something outside of what they're driven to do. Let it all just let it flow. What about
And
you?
they're going to end up being, I think, coming from my perspective, I see from the wisdom I have now, obviously, I see that age being an age where you transform into people, into your own kind of people. And that's why people that I have been to, some, not all, people that have been together since high school end up growing apart because they become two different people, because you're kids when you start off, right? And then I suppose college kind of rolls you into exploring different avenues and giving you, like, it's almost like a melting pot of all these different sensations that you go through, like all these different senses that you get to experience. You get to experience the party life, you get to experience the living in dorms with other people, you get to experience, away from your parents for the first time and not having to worry about them being there. So you end up becoming the first adult version of yourself. And that at that age, so much changes, that I think that if you are in a relationship and you're so young, that people are in such different stages, that it's a good opportunity for them to grow separately and keep that friendship growing, so that when they get older or when they meet up after college, either they're two new people that aren't going to gel together and they are lucky for knowing that then, or they meet up and that connection is still there and they're two new people who have got these experiences that will live on forever, because that those experiences at those ages are just such a beautiful thing to have. So
Yeah,
yeah.
they build that bond, they give
Mm.
each other that space to grow, to become, the versions of themselves they want to become. And if it's supposed to be, it'll be, you know what I mean? If they're each other's people, then it'll come back together
Yeah.
in one
Yeah.
way or another. But trying to set some sort of like, we're going to make this work and it's going to be an act of contrition through college and we're going to have discipline and we're going to hold ourselves accountable and we're going to have all these calls. Now that brings actually a very important aspect, and we'll get to those other questions and the other little few statements in the time we have left. But that's the other thing, that the question that brings up is, okay, now that
All right, let's go.
that's the other thing I was thinking about also, that as been reading these Reddits, looking at stuff, you have people like us, for example, that are 10,000 miles apart. We are at the fastest mode of transportation on this planet. Transportation on this planet. It still takes almost 20 hours. If we had a private plane, it would take like maybe 18 or 17 hours. We are still multiples of hours away from each
Mhm.
other in the fastest, most expensive way to travel on this planet. Okay. When you hear someone that's an hour and a half drive away from someone, yes, if
Calling
you have
it.
a car, that's tough. But that's not long distance.
No,
That's
sorry.
that's far a long drive. That's maybe I'll see you on the weekend, but that's not like,
That doesn't qualify a long distance relationship.
yeah, it's going to cost us $12,000 to see each other 3 or 4 times this year. That's a long distance relationship.
Hmm.
You know,
Agreed. Agreed. Well, interstate, when you're flying a few hours, maybe, yeah, okay, that's it, long distance, I can give you that. But yeah, 1.5 hour drive, 2 hour drive, it's like, oh, I would do that a couple of times a week.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly,
it's
exactly. It'd be like,
crazy.
"Shit, I'm coming to your house tonight, fuck it, I can't
Yeah.
sleep." Like, "I'm gonna go hop on the plane right now."
Yeah, I can't just leave now and go, I'll see you soon. I mean, it'll be soon, but it won't be
Yeah,
in
leave
an hour and a
everything
half.
behind.
Yeah, no, that's yeah, it's funny when I hear people say that, which we've discussed a couple of times when we've seen it's not an hour and a half, 3 hours, that's not a long distance relationship. I mean,
Exactly,
you're a car ride away, really, at the end of the day. That's not, I can't.
exactly,
I can't. It takes me an hour and a half to get to work some days in traffic, so I'm
exactly.
just like, I do it every day of the week. Um, but yeah, no. So, all right, on that topic too, how long is too long to stay in a situation where you are just visiting, and only for like a week at a time, or 2 weeks at a time, or whatever that is,
That's a pretty nuanced statement, right?
in
Because
your opinion?
it's nuanced. No, it's nuanced because you gotta take into consideration, I mean, obviously the two people in it, it is what it is. But I'm
Mm,
saying just looking at it, what's the intelligence like? What's the maturity level? What's the
yeah,
experience level? How many relationships have these people been in? Are they trying to get married now? Are they trying to have children? And there's different variables that you have to like take into consideration of like how long are you willing to play this game? You know what I
yeah,
mean? Because if you're able to see each other 4 times a year and you're seeing each other for 2 weeks and you're seeing that person 2 months out of the year in total, but you're seeing them every that
hmm,
frequency, that might be enough for some people, and that might be something they can sustain for life. You know what I mean?
mm,
And have that be the only person that they deal with. And then other people, they need that constant stimulation, that constant
right,
interaction. Um, so it might be complete torture for them. They might not be able to do it for 6 months, before they're like losing interest and
right.
looking over their shoulder. Um, so it's really,
Great
relative to the
points.
relationship. I think the awareness has to come in of you being aware of where you're developed at in your relationship and your maturity level in relationships, and the same with the other person.
Hmm.
How
Yeah,
mature are they? How developed are they? How sophisticated are they? Is this a person is this the value of what I'm waiting for is like, would it be amazing when we live together? Or
yeah.
am I like in this daydream or pipe dream?
Great answer. Gosh, you considered a lot in that one. That was good. That was awesome.
I'm a deep thinker.
You you're a deep thinker. Um, yeah, look, I would probably agree. I would probably, obviously, that great points that you made, and I guess also too, people have different views on what a long distance relationship consists of. So if they're not wanting to get married or to end up together in the same location, they can do it. They can do it for as long as they want, as long as it's both parties are okay with it. But if someone, you've got to assess that, I guess, if you're someone entering in to a long distance relationship, really wanting to find a connection with someone and end up together, and then the other person's like really happy to keep it casual, then, the disconnect's not going to get you very far. So that's a case by case basis, I think, that one.
That's what exactly, and that's why you gotta know what
Mm,
page you're on. You gotta be on the same page with the person, because if you're
yeah.
not on the same page with them, and and also too, that's the other side of that's where the maturity and the time of being with the person comes in. Because if you're dealing with you don't really know a person till you know a person. So they can be a
Mm,
compulsive liar, they can be a narcissist, they can be, all these things. They could be love bombing you, like using all these manipulative tactics,
yeah.
kind of dark magic tactics on you that you may not be aware of, that you may not have experienced before from people in the past that you've dated. It's always been kind of traditional. It's been kind of like, and then you run up against this person who's like says all the right things, does all the right things,
Yeah.
makes you have the little warm tinglies, but they're just really good at doing that, and they're not their intentionality behind their action and all that can be skewed heavily. You know, you can find that with
Absolutely.
anybody, but it's really dangerous when you're talking about just only having phone where you only see a person in the under the condition that they want you to see them under, and not really knowing exactly who they are or what they come from
Right.
or what they're around.
Yeah. Yeah, true. It's funny, isn't it? Long distance relationships, there's so many factors that fall into having it run smoothly and having it evolve, in the way that, it gets you from meeting someone online or however it is, whether you meet them in person and then they're not from around, they're holidaying, or whether you meet them online like we did. Um, you know, the evolution of a long
I
distance
hate, I
relationship
hate how you said that. We met
online.
online on
Well,
that dating app,
we met no, it wasn't it wasn't on Indigo. We met
international
online. We did. We met on a social app.
internationalthirst.com.
Findyourmatch.com. No, we did meet online. We met on an online platform. But
Do you have a limiting self doubt belief? We'll help persona exemplify. What's the word? Hold on.
try again.
We'll
Yeah,
exacerbate. We'll exacerbate that for you.
yeah,
Come
insecurity.
on in.
Perfect.
We'll
Yeah.
give you plenty of pipe dreams. We got a girl in Alaska right now waiting on your message
Oh
in,
my gosh.
Antarctica.
Stop it. But yeah,
Perfect
look, it's
match the
yeah.
furthest away possible, so you don't ever have to overcome your insecurity.
Look, at the end of the day, long distance relationships are becoming a normal thing because of so much technology out there. So, the chances of people meeting more people from all different parts of the world is going to be a lot more of a natural, normal thing that happens because we're able to, at our fingertips, literally grab our phone and talk to people wherever they are. So, when you connect with someone, doesn't matter. It doesn't take into account the distance that you're apart. That's up to you to work it out once you start chatting to them, I guess. So, it's one of those things that, that's the adventure that we're on now. So a lot of
Yeah.
people are doing it.
Yeah, I mean, well, a lot of people like, and then you talk about closing the gap, which ultimately is the end game. So, I mean, I think as long as it's not hopium, where you're just and then continually putting the date out and making excuses and giving reasons and objections of not just facing the challenge of making the move, or facing the challenge of going, it's not a realistic thing that we're going to probably move, or it's not realistic for me to do this or that, and I think it's just best just to whatever. I mean, it's just so easy just to communicate and be open,
Mm, yeah.
and that's where the importance of just knowing who you're dealing with, what they come from, and we're going to do an episode on that of how to identify a quality partner. What
Hey.
good characteristics should I be looking for? And while you're like, I'm in a regular relationship, I would never do a long distance relationship. Some of the factors that the parameters and the guidelines and things you follow in a long distance relationship are equally, if not more important in a local relationship, because things can tend to move faster, so you have less time to get to see
Hmm.
that person before you may be already in a situation where it's tough to
Absolutely.
turn out of it you know
Yep.
um
Great,
so you might,
great topic coming up.
yeah, so we have that, because you just never know, um you know how things can end up until you really get to experience a person. So it's really good to have tools to be able to identify things. I could have saved myself years of wasted time. Not even wasted time, but spent more time finding myself and working on me instead of
Hmm.
externalizing my happiness and trying to figure out, a car wreck.
Yeah. Youth is wasted on the young, babe. That's so true. I completely agree. But again, at the same time, I would not be this person without having gone through all that stuff. So, it's kind of like it is what it is.
That's exactly how you have to frame it, is like you
Yeah,
wouldn't even be who you are, you
nothing.
know.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of ways to frame it, but yeah, so that'll be maybe next episode. Uh, we haven't decided, but so glad you guys are joining and listening and enjoying, and we're open to comments, feedback, support, uh,
Support's
reviews,
great.
follows, follows, reviews, advice. hopefully you guys are enjoying the content, the YouTube videos, the Instagram videos, the TikTok videos. Yeah, we're doing it all. Join the
Mm.
community too over on Facebook. We're gonna start really facilitating bringing people together of like mind and attitude. Can't say we're going to start date matching people or anything like that, but whatever tools you come in the community and get, you're able to take those tools out into your relationship world, your dating world. Me and Cindy have a lot of experience. Failure breeds the best success. So, not say that anything we did was a failure, but it is what it was, and it served its purpose. And now we're
Mhm.
using it to serve our purpose, to serve your purpose. So, we're doing it all on purpose.
That's it. At Sin and Tay, if you want to follow us on all platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok and YouTube. It's at Sin and Tay. So
Yeah,
easy
and
to
if you
find.
and if you didn't know, for the last 35 minutes, it's a relationship podcast.
Yes. Oops, we forgot to mention. Absolutely. All right, we're going to close this one out. We'll catch you on the next episode.
All right, nice. I'm gonna end this. And thanks for hanging out with me, Chatter. The 6 people that watched, and
Excellent.
maybe all 6 will be here next time. I don't know. I gotta end this. How do I end the room? In the room. That room is ended.
Chat is over.
Chat is over, and this is over.